So we've just seen the tweets by both Donald Trump and our Prime Minister, and I think it's very good news that finally agreement has come between the two nations. All the details are yet to come in, and it would be premature to state exactly how it's going to impact exports in general and engineering exports in particular. But I think it's a welcome sign, and I'm sure that things will only look better going forward.
US president, he announced that he got on a telephonic conversation with our prime minister. He announced that the US president, he announced that he got on a telephonic conversation with our prime minister. He announced that there is now going to be a trade deal between the two countries. He also announced that the US is slashing its tariffs to at 18% from the earlier 25%. He also announced that India will be slashing its tariffs to zero on US imports. And finally, he announced that the Prime Minister Modi, he's agreed to stop buying Russian oil and he will now buy oil only from the US or from Venezuela. So, what do you have to say to that, sir?
See, as far as the tariffs on industrial goods, we have already offered him zero tariff on industrial goods a few months back. So that offer is already with him on his table since few months at least. The item of not buying Russian oil, that's something to be taken at the highest level. So if the highest level of in India decides that that is how it should be, then that is how it should be. I can't comment on that. But the fact is that our red lines still remain, that of agriculture and dairy. So as long as President Trump is honoring our red lines, I think we had a deal going since a long, long time. It was for him to say yes. And possibly he has said yes now because of the changed situation of us having a deal with EU. And so I guess maybe he realized that Mr. Modi will not buckle down on his red flags, which is what we didn't give EU also. We didn't give them dairy and agriculture. So finally, I think that's what got him through to him that this is not going to work. So might as well do the deal without these items.
We're going to see where the dust settles on this, but I suspect the total will be 18%. Frankly, if India's tariffs on US goods are 0%, I do also think that India should make very clear right now that the reciprocal equivalent of this would be for 0% tariffs on Indian goods to the United States.
Right. So, do you believe that this deal it's coming at a time of intense negotiation between the two countries? That's true. But why do you think this is happening exactly right now? Do you think there's any relevance to the timing of this particular deal? How it came out all of a sudden?
Well, I wouldn't read too much into the actual timing because there's been some negotiation for quite some time. That said, the United States is getting a little bit more worried about its own economy. Trump is facing pressure, and we've seen this in the choice of appointment for the new chairman of the Federal Reserve with regard to inflation. And therefore, Trump is perfectly happy to have a quote unquote win at home. Whether it's actually a win in the long term, however, remains questionable, not because of the outcome, which is positive, but because of the negative ramifications of how Trump went about negotiating this.
So, first of all, it is a very monumental deal. India and the US have both been in negotiations for a very long time. There was the issue of India doing Russian oil purchases. So those punitive tariffs have been removed. The White House has confirmed that 25% extra tariffs for the purchase of Russian oil has been removed. As for the 18%, it's interesting because he says these are reciprocal tariffs, but per President Donald Trump, India is not going to be charging any tariffs. They're going to go down to zero, so I don't see how that's reciprocal. The other interesting thing in his announcement was the $500 billion purchase commitment by India. which is interesting because if you look at the budget, the Indian budget that was just brought out, that's like almost, I think, more than 80% of the budget. So, but this is President Trump's announcement. He likes to be the first to break the news. And we're still waiting for the finer details to come out.
US has reduced tariffs on Indian products to 18%. I think it's a welcome move. It's a great move. Now Indian exports to US would increase. Indian GDP would grow. Employment opportunities in India would increase. Plus there would be lot of inflow of dollar into our country. So that would make our rupee stronger because dollar has been creating problems for us. Dollar has been going beyond 92 rupees. And I think it's a win-win situation for India because earlier we had tie-ups with UK, we had tie-ups with other countries, FTAs. Now, just a few days ago, we had a tie-up FTA with EU, which was being called mother of all deals. Now, our business with US also would resume, increase to a lot extent. And this had to happen because US itself was facing a lot of problems because of this high tariffs. See, Indian products are considered good quality products in US. Plus, India has the advantage of products being manufactured with manpower cost being too lesser because we have we have manpower, talented manpower who is ready to work at viable costs. Because of tariffs, US, own economy of US was suffering. In US, inflation had increased. US, the inflation was 2.7%. In US, unemployment was high. So it's very good for US economy also that now they have lowered tariffs on India and US has been our biggest trading partner earlier. So it's very natural for us to do business with them. So I think it's a great thing. I think it would reflect in India, Indian markets also, and Indian economy is going to increase. Indian exports are going to increase. Indian GDP is going to increase. And end of the day, employment opportunities in India are going to increase because of this.
My first question to you is that Donald Trump has announced on Truth Social that India and US have finally done the deal we have long been waiting for, and also that tariffs have been slashed from 25% to 18%. Your first reaction to that?
I welcome this positive news. This is a great news for both nations, United States and India. This has been going on for a very long time, and Indian diaspora, people of India, Americans, everybody is welcoming this news this morning as the morning is breaking up in US. And I think we are already seeing some positive signs. India's stock market is going to react very positively in the morning. We can see that. And it's a win-win situation for both the nations, both United States and India. And at this point, I think rather than debating who won, who lost, who is the bigger economy, who benefits more, I think it's a time to celebrate, unite, and also whatever damage has been done to the relationship in last 4 to 5 months, we need to really mend it. And I think this is going to take US-India relationship to greater heights. The Indian diaspora, Indian American diaspora in US has been working very hard for last 20 to 25 years in building US India relationship. And I think they were also working very hard in the last 6 months so that this relationship could be strengthened. And today we are seeing very positive results. Congratulations once again to the Ministry of External Affairs, our Foreign Minister Jay Shankarji, Prime Minister Modi, President Trump, for doing this historical, trade deal.
Well, I think it's a win-win situation for both countries. To be 100% fair, I think there's going to be a lot of folks in the opposition on both sides in America and in India who are not going to be happy with this deal. But the facts are the facts, and I think the reduction of tariffs to the lowest in Asia, India is now 18%. and that India is also opening up its markets to America. Both of those are win-win situations. And as I said, look at the previous few days, even the Republican Day celebrations. Governors in agricultural states in America were congratulating India, which was something that was sort of not heard of before. And they were doing that because they view India as a natural market, as already an existing market. Many of America's agricultural exports already go to India. So there was already a relationship and mutual beneficial relationship beforehand, even with the tariffs. So I think this is a win-win for both sides, for both countries. And I think on the Russia question, it's always interesting to hear, that is obviously something that people have been focusing on. When the tariffs and the tension was ongoing for the last year, Prime Minister Modi flew to Tianjin. He hugged Prime Minister Xi. He hugged Prime Minister Putin. But a hug is not a deal. Good vibes are good vibes. But it was very obvious that the optics of that aside, and those optics were received in Washington D.C. in the way that they were meant. That India can also play the negotiating game, and so I think ultimately the natural relationship and the natural sort of alignment that many people feel that America has with India worked out in the end, because not just in terms of agriculture, in terms of culture, Indians speak English. Many Indian Americans are here. Many Indian Americans are prominent in the government, not just in all factors of American life. So there was always this sort of feeling that this is only a small passing kind of tension, and eventually it will be resolved. And it's very obvious that it has been resolved. And look, President Trump is also looking for a geopolitical win. I think some of his own issues with tariffs have not worked out as well as he wished to. So I think this sense that India and the U.S. are natural partners, if not future allies. And so this announcement simply feels, oh yeah, that's very natural to everybody. And as far as Russia goes, look, let's be honest. That is a relationship from the Cold War that has persisted. It's not going to go away just in terms of diplomatic terms. But it's very obvious that the balance of that relationship is really India paying a lot more into that relationship than Russia is, and is able to currently, as it's mired in the Ukrainian war. And so the crude oil situation and the energy situation, look, India has huge needs for energy. And I think it's very obvious that whatever relationship that India has with the United States going forward, it will include not just agricultural, but energy requirements that will be met by American producers. And that's why I say it's a win-win, because America wants to export its energy to places like India, to other places. Even this whole Venezuela situation is going to end up benefiting India, because India is going to be able to, demand better prices, get supply from the Caribbean countries that produce oil. Already, India is involved and invested in places like Guyana. So Venezuela is another natural outgrowth of that. So President Trump's foreign policy is going to be beneficial to India in the long run.
The reason for such a gap is that the Trump administration has, post a call with Honorable Prime Minister, has decided to reduce the tariff rate from 50% to 18%, which is a significant 32% reduction, and markets are building on the possibility of a further rate cut. The US-India trade deal is yet the final contours are yet to be disclosed, but this definitely gives us opens up a lot of segments for a preferential treatment, which are possibly being discussed. But the immediate tariff cut definitely pushes up the markets and changes the sentiment on the market, with 25,000 and 25,150 on Nifty being the immediate support level. So the structure on the markets from a bearish has now turned to a positive structure. We await the further details on the US-India trade deals that are being discussed, but this is the immediate effect for now.